Hey logical people, GKV here, and welcome to yet another tutorial where we're going to talk about how to use Firebase for user authentication using React and Next.js. So let's get right into that. I think the first question that comes to my mind and should come to anybody's mind is why Firebase? Why not use something else, right? Well, the answer is why not Firebase? I mean, unless you're super passionate about creating your own protocols for user authentication, creating REST APIs so that different platforms and apps running on different media devices can connect to that REST API, and of course you are willing to create your own database, doing all that even before your idea has taken off, I think that takes a lot of work. And in my personal opinion, if you use Firebase, all of these things that you see on the screen right now, user authentication, REST APIs, database management, things like that, everything can be taken care by Google. And all you need to focus is how to design a beautiful looking front end. And if that's not enough, well, let's hear it from the horse's mouth. So here I'm gonna go to Google, of course, and I'll search for Firebase. Here is the first link. Now what they are telling us is that Firebase is a product and a solution that you can rely on through your app journey. So it gives you a really great accelerated app development framework. It helps you in release and monitoring. It gives you lots of tools, for example, Crashlytics, performance monitoring, Google Analytics. And of course, you can also see all sort of engagements that how your customers are engaging with your app, running A/B testing and whatnot. It also provides a lot of integrations. For example, you can integrate your current app with Google Ads, AdMob, Market Platform, Play Store, BigQuery, Slack, and so on. The list just goes on. And with that motivation, I think we are ready to take a deep dive into what we're going to learn in this tutorial. So here are our few learning objectives. So we're going to create a free account on Firebase console. We will create a Next.js project from scratch, of course. We will set up the Next.js project and Firebase together so that your front end is able to talk to the Firebase. Nice looking Google login button. When I say nice looking, it will be a simple HTML button, but you can of course use any type of styling, probably use Bootstrap to style your button and make it look fancy. We're going to create protected routes so that we are able to distinguish if user is logged in, then they can go to, for example, to the home page, to the profile page, and if they're not logged in, they cannot go to those routes. Okay. Last but not least, we would also create login and logout routes because it's important to have a separate logout route so that you can just kind of kick out someone whenever there's appropriate reason for that on your app. Okay. With that, let's just get started. Here's the learning methodology that I normally follow, and I recommend everyone to follow this. Is we're not gonna, or let's say I'm not gonna list everything that is there to know about Firebase, and then off you go. That's not what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through a journey with you, and I'm gonna read through the documentation. I'm gonna go through the methods and classes provided by Firebase as if I am, learning this together with you, so that you understand if you're stuck and if you're not watching this video or something that I've not covered in this video, you are able to find solution for that on your own. And that should be your goal whenever you're learning anything new. Okay. With that motivation, now let's get started. Okay, so let's create a free account on Firebase for yourself. So now let's talk about how do we get started. And to get started, it's super simple. You just need to go to Google, search for Firebase console. Click on the first link that appears. On the top right corner, click on Go to Console. And here, what you want to do is you want to create on this Create a Project button. And on this screen, you can put the name of the project, and that project will become, so that project name will be shown to the user when people are trying to log in using your app. So I could say here, Test App YouTube. Right? I accept and I confirm and I continue. I just want to leave it that way, like, okay, I want it to be enabled. It's asking a couple of questions, the location and things like that. So I'll just say everything default is good. It's going to create a project for you. So I'm going to come back once the project is ready. All right, my project is ready to use. I'm going to click on continue. It's going to take me to one of these screens. Here you want to add the type of app that you want to add on your app. I'm going to select web version of it. You can also try iOS, you can try Android, and there's Unity and Flutter. I'm going to try web. So here you will give the name of the app, and let's say my app YouTube. It's asking, do you want to set up an hosting? If you want, you can go for it. For time being, I'm going to say no. I'm going to register the app. Now it's telling us to add the Firebase SDK. We're going to do this in a moment. I'm just going to click on continue to console, just like that. Okay. So once you're here, what you need to do is you need to pick applications, or let's say functionalities, that you want from Firebase. So the first thing that we need definitely is authentication, and we'll click on get started. So once you click on that, you see that it tells you different providers that you can use in order to get your user signed in. I'm going to use Google for time being. You can also select Facebook for that matter. That's a project for another video. At the starting, I mentioned that the project name is what people are going to see when they log in. However, that was incorrect. The project name that the people gonna see is what you're gonna give here. So for example, I'm gonna say test app YouTube, like that. And you can configure your support email. I'm just gonna give my default email, and I'm gonna click save. Once you save that, you would see something like this in the sign in providers, which says Google and it says enabled. Again, if you want to add another provider, you can click on add new provider, and then you can select Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, plain vanilla email password, things like that. Okay, we're not going to use that, so I'm going to click on close. One more important thing is that you need to also authorize your domains. So for time being, we're going to work on our local machines. So it's okay that I have localhost here, but tomorrow if you're going to host this app to a website, let's say the website is called myawesomewebsite.com, you might want to add that domain here, because if you do not do that, Google will reject all the requests that's coming from that domain. Beautiful. So that's step one. So one objective completed. Now let's see how we can create a NEXTJS project from scratch. All right, so I've created where I'm intending to keep all my code. So what you need to do is you need to click on this address bar and type cmd and press enter. This will open a command window for you in this location. And now let's go to Google and search for how to install NEXTJS with TypeScript. We need to install NEXTJS with TypeScript. If you don't know what TypeScript is, how to install NEXTJS, dependencies and everything, please go through the basics fundamental playlist that I created, and you will have a deeper understanding of what all this means. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to copy this command. I'm going to go back to this command window. I'm going to paste it and press enter. Firebase _ tutorial. It should be okay. Press enter. It's going to download all the dependencies, React, React DOM, and Next. And I'm going to come back once everything is done. Beautiful. Looks like everything has been installed. And then I'm going to open this project in VS Code. So here it is. Here's my Visual Code. Again, if you're not sure how to set up your Visual Code for a Next project, for a React project, please go through the fundamental playlist. I've explained everything in super detail. Therefore, I don't want to repeat myself here. So I'm just going to move on. So you click on the file, click on open folder, and you navigate to the folder that you just created. And here is the folder that I created. You don't have to go inside the folder. You just have to select the folder and click on select folder. Lovely. Here it is, our default app. I'm going to click on terminal, click on new terminal, and I'm going to say npm run dev. While this is opening, we want to go back to Google and we're going to search for how to install Firebase in a React project. Let's try this one. I think this is the best one. So it's given by the Firebase itself. We go to the documentation, and there it is. We need to run this command so that eventually we are able to do this. So let's do that. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna open a new terminal by clicking on plus. I'm gonna paste this, and I'm going to say minus minus save, because I want this dependency to be saved within my project. So our server is still running. What we're going to do, we're going to go to we're going to go to pages, we're going to go to index, select, and delete this, because we want to create our own index file. Inside pages folder, we're going to create new file. I'll call it index.tsx, like that, and we'll say const index page equals to return. What do we want to return? We want to return h1. First, you guessed it, it's hello world. And we always export this, so let's do that. Export default index page, like that. Save it, and we go back to our browser. We go back to localhost, and we refresh the page, and there you go, hello world. I'm going to zoom in because, why not? So now this is set up. Before jumping into writing the code so that our app is able to connect to Firebase and we have different users, let's try and understand this conceptually, that what needs to happen so that your app is able to talk to Firebase. And to do that, I'm gonna take a help of very sophisticated software, and that's called MS Paint. This is my favorite. So let's assume this is your website or whatever fancy app that you're creating. For this to understand if user is logged in, we need to somehow talk to Google. So I'll say my app. This needs to talk to Google or Firebase, basically. So how it works is, within our app, we're going to send a request to Google. Google will process the authentication and give us a response, and it will say everything is okay. When Google sends a response saying everything is okay, it also sends cookies. A cookie also contains token, and these tokens are like identifiers. So this is happening for the first time, right? So when the first time user tries to log in, and once this has happened, you want your app to stay logged in as long as this token or this cookie is valid. So what happens is, we also create a React hook, and this React hook checks if user is logged in, right? How does it do it? Mostly the way we did it first time, but now first time we manually needed user to authenticate and give permission that okay, I want to log in using Google. But second time what happens, the React hook technically grabs this token, and this token is sent back to Google. Google verifies the token and it sends back to our app if things are okay or not okay. Beautiful. And all of this to happen seamlessly, what we need to do is, here somehow we need an interface that can talk to Google or Firebase. And to do that, what do? Well, we create Firebase init function. Let's see how we do that. So we're going to start with this Firebase init function. That's our step 1. Then we're going to create a React hook. That's step number 2. And then we're going to create step number 3. That would basically make sure that when you click on a button, so a button, when you click on it, this first call is initialized. Okay, and from there everything flows. So I hope you're able to follow this. We're going to see this in action step by step, and so that you're able to follow everything along with me. Okay, are you excited? I am super excited. I'm back in my VS Code. So inside my root folder, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Firebase. Inside Firebase folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it Firebase init. Here, I'm going to create a function. I'm going to call it init my Firebase. Now you can call it anything you like. That's up to you, right? And now we're going to do a couple of things. So the first thing that we really want to do is we want to initialize a Firebase app, right? How do we do that? That's actually super simple. We're going to say const app is equals to initialize app, and that initialize app will take some configuration. We have not created this constant, so let's do that first. So we're going to say const. Time being, we are keeping it empty. We're going to fill it in a moment. Also, this initialize app should not be called from Firebase admin. This needs to be imported from Firebase/app, like that. Okay, so we're going to say creating auth for authentication, and that would be const auth equals to get auth, like that. Get auth function takes a variable as an input, and that's app, and this get auth needs to be imported like this. That's it. These are the two lines that you need in order to get started. However, it is recommended that you do a couple of checks so that you don't just keep initiating a new app again and again. So how do we do that? It's super simple. We say if not get apps. Right, so this is a function dot length. If we do not have anything within this get app, then we would like to do this, of course. You know what? Let's do one more thing. We're gonna say console log initialized Firebase, like that. And if this is not true, so if this is not happening, then we're gonna say else. Copy this. Let's say already initialized, so we don't have to reinitialize anything. Okay, beautiful. Now, depending on what you selected when you created your Firebase app, if you selected Google Analytics and things like that, well, you also need to initialize that. And we initialize that by checking if type of window is not undefined, basically, right? What we are basically saying, so this window object is provided by browser to React. So we are saying if this is not undefined, so basically it is available. And then we are saying if measurement ID in Firebase config, then we want to create two constant, one for Google Analytics and one for Google Performance. So how do we do that? We'll say const ANY analytics equals to get analytics, and we provide our app into that, like that. And we'll say performance equals to, you guessed it, get performance. This also takes our app, and these need to be imported, and I'm pretty sure you have guessed the pattern so far. So let's do that super quick. We will say import get analytics from Firebase, of course, and then analytics, like that. Copy this, paste it, and now we want performance, and we want get performance, like that. So we're gonna populate this configuration in a moment, and we are saying, hey, if window variable is available and if this config variable also contains a measurement ID, then why don't you initialize two more apps? One is Google Analytics and another is performance. Okay, so far so good. Now the question is, how do we get this Firebase configs? Let's go and see how we can find that. MANCE. Why can't I spell it? Beautiful. Now let's go to Google Firebase and try and figure out how do we get that? How do we get all these configurations, right? So the way we do this is you go to Firebase Google and click on this go to console. Once you go there, click on the app that you created. You can click on this My App YT, for example, and click on settings. Or you can click here, project overview, and click on settings and then go for project settings. Either way, whichever you find reasonable and handy. Then you scroll down. And what Google has done, they have given you kind of an example of how to import and how to initialize Firebase. What you need is this configuration. So copy this, come back to Firebase and replace this, like that. A quick reminder, make sure that this API key, or technically all of this, is never hard-coded within your front-end development. So maybe make sure you read this from environment variable or .inv file. If you need help, please do comment that in the comment section, and I will create another video for you so that you understand how to import this securely from env file. For time being, we're going to keep it this way. Okay, So now we have our config ready. Now we have our function ready. What we need to do, we need to export this so that React can find it. So we're going to say export default Firebase, like that. Okay, beautiful. Now, if we take a step back and think about, we have created this initialization that is good, but where do we use it? Like, seriously, I really want you guys to, maybe pause the video or take a moment to try and understand where should you import this Firebase and what is the best place to put such a thing if you need a function or variable everywhere. Well, you guessed it. That is within the apps page. So within the apps function, what we're going to do, we're going to say just, call this function like that. And it needs to be imported like this. If React is not able to find it, there are two reasons. One, either you forgot to do your export, or it's just not updated, so just manually put it this way. Beautiful. So now let's test this and see if this is working the way it should, or we're getting some errors. So I'm back on my Chrome browser. I'm going to press Ctrl-Shift-I to open my console. I'm going to do a hard refresh on the page. And you see it says initialized Firebase, and then it says already initialized Firebase. This is a normal behavior from React, so nothing to worry about. It's just the life cycle of how a component works. So we're good to go. Jumping back to our learning objectives, we have successfully created a free Firebase account. We have created a NEXTJS project from scratch. We have set up NEXTJS and Firebase together. Beautiful. Let's create a login button with Google. I'm going to right click on Firebase, create a new file. I'll call it login with google.tsx, like that. I'm going to create login with Google. I'm going to return a button. Type will be first button. And we'll say login with Google, like that. And what do we do always? We always export, right? So export default login with Google, like that. And now let's import this within our index page. So I'm going to say login with Google, like that. And login with Google needs to be imported like this. Okay, perfect. So if I save it, go back to my localhost. Now I've got a beautiful looking button which says login with Google. Of course, when you click on it, nothing happens because we did not tell it to do anything. Okay, so let's try and tell this button to do something. So I'm going to say on click. So whenever it's click, handle login. We have not created this function, so let's do that. We're going to say const handle login. Now let's go back to Firebase and see what they are explaining and how can we use their SDK to log in. So they're saying step 1, create a Firebase project, and we did that, so that is good. We're able to install it. This part is so completed. No, this is not what we want. Authentication for web. This is something useful. So we're going to click on it. So let's see. They're saying create a get auth. We have created this. Things how to sign up a new user. They are saying create with email ID and password. So this is not the provider we are interested, although if you want, you can go and explore this. We are interested in understanding Google sign-in. So let's try and look for this. So what they're saying is we need to create an instance of Google Auth provider. So let's copy that. Come back. Let's first import it, right? And then let's create a provider like this. We've got a Google Auth provider. Now, depending upon which kind of login do you want, you probably have to create different types of provider with different types of components. In this tutorial, we are interested in Google, so we're going to do the Google. If you want me to do Facebook login as well, GitHub login as well, please do let me know in the comment section, and I will create those videos for you. Okay, coming back to this. So we have created a provider, which is nice. And now it's saying this is optional, but you can actually provide a scope to the provider. For example, what all things would you like to read when user gives you access to their Google profile? We're gonna skip this and we're gonna keep it to default, but you can technically go and add as many scope as you like. Page. I'm interested with the pop-up window because this is the most used one. So when user click on the button, a window opens, and then user is prompted if they want to log in or not. Okay. Well, I'm gonna copy everything because this is all we need. So I'm going to copy this. I'll come back to our example. I'm going to paste it. Then I'm gonna cut everything and I'm gonna paste it inside our function like that. Okay. We need to import get auth. Get auth can be imported, of course, from auth, and we also need this function sign in with popup that also can be imported from auth like this. So what we are saying is Google will create a pop-up for us. It takes auth, which we have already created, and it takes a provider, which we have created just now. Also remember that when we say get auth, this function takes in all the details that we created with Firebase init function here. Okay, lovely. So we are saying here is the authentication, here is the provider. If everything is okay, so if user did provide their confirmation, let's get some credentials. And this is how we can get their credentials. We don't need it right now, so I'm going to delete this. I'm going to also delete this. If you're interested, go and read about it. What I'm interested is in, of course, the user. So I'm going to just do a console log for time being. But what you can do technically is here, the normal flow would be that you would insert and proceed from there, Next, in case something went wrong, we're gonna catch that error. So I'm gonna delete everything because I don't want to do anything with the error. I just want to log it to the console like that. All right. So just a quick recap. So when user click on this button, we're gonna call handle login function. The handle login function will call sign in with popup method provided by Firebase. Lovely, right? It takes two parameter, auth and provider. Depending on which type of login you want, you create your provider. This pop-up will take all these details and prompt the user that if they want to give access. So if everything is okay, we get a result, and within the result, we get the user details like this, and we're gonna log it. So I'm gonna save everything. I will go back to my local host, refresh the page so that we are working with a fresh one. Okay. Click on login with Google. Now it will ask me that choose an account to move ahead. If I say close, or if I do not give you access, you will see that it will log an error after a while. It says pop-up closed by the user. Now if I click here and if I say, hey, yes, I want to move ahead with this account. Okay, it's asking for the password, of course, because I cleared all the cookies. Now it doesn't know. And if the password is correct, you see that I got the user. And within the user, so this user is basically a dictionary that we logged right here. And within that user, you got the display name, which is it's okay to be logical. You got the email. The important thing is that you get an UID, and this should normally be a unique ID in your database against this user, basically. You also get a photo URL, which is this. So this URL can be used as an avatar, right? And there are a bunch of other details if you want to use it. Beautiful. So now you see that we are able to log in to Google, but there's something missing here. And so if there was a success, we would like the user to basically move to a new page, right? We don't want them to stay here. And that's super simple. What we can do is we can say use router like that. This should be const router. And make sure you import the use router from next like this. And then with this use router hook, I could say router.push and send user to new page, and that should be home page. So if I clear everything here, I click on login, it will be success, and then I'm redirected to home page, and I get a 404 error because this page is not defined, not able to find it. So let's create a new page. I'm going to call it home.tsx. You know the drill. Const. You should see me only if you are logged in. Okay. Then we would like to create a button, and we'll say logout like that, and we'll say type, of course, is button, and on click, and it'll log out. We have not created this function yet, so let's do that. We'll say const and a logout. This should be a function, and we're gonna come back to define how we log out a user. And of course, as always, we're gonna export default homepage like that. If we come back and right here, so it says hi, I'm from homepage. You should see me only if you're logged in. Logout button doesn't work, and there's no way to log out right now, but you are able to go to index page and you're able to go to home page like this. So if I go back to index page, and if I type, just go here and manually say home, should be able to go to home page. In general, this should not be happening, but we're going to handle that in a moment, and that's our next learning objective. So we are able to create a prompt a Google login button, success. Now we're going to look how to create a protected route. So let's see how we can implement that. Well, to create protected routes, what we need to do on the home page, we need to check if user is logged in. If user is logged in, then we're gonna return this. Otherwise, we will just send user back to home page. Right. So once this is initialized, we would like to send user to home page. Sorry, to the index page. To do that, what we would do, we would create a hook. We will use the hook called useEffect, and within this useEffect, we're gonna pass a dependency of empty array, which means this will be called once the component is mounted or initialized. So this use effect will be called only once when the component is mounted. Now to understand if user is logged in, we're gonna create an auth. So we're gonna say const auth equals to get auth. Now you're a master of this, you know how to do this. With this get auth, we will get an authentication object, and within this use effect, we're gonna say const unsubscribe, maybe subscribe, that is equals to auth dot on state change. So whenever the state of authentication changes, this function needs a callback function. So if you read the documentation, it says that it needs a callback. So we're just gonna say auth state change handler like that. So let's create this now. So let's say const auth handler, the function of course, like that. Now within this function, we would like to do a couple of things to understand if user is authenticated or not. When this function is called, a parameter will be passed. That parameter is, we're going to call it useState, for example. And we're going to say if useAuth is not available, then we basically say that console log user is not logged in. And from here, we want to redirect the user to index page. And how do we do that? We do that by creating router. So we say const router equals to use router. And remember, use router needs to be imported from next like that. So if auth is not available, that means user is not logged in. So we're gonna say router.push. Where do you want the user to go? We want them to go to index page like this. Else, if user is authenticated, well, then there's nothing to do about it. So literally that's it, right? Welcome back, like this. Okay. And to clean up everything, what we will say return an anonymous function like this, and within this function we're gonna call unsubscribe like that. Beautiful. So with this, now let's go and check if user is logged in or not. Now if I go back and refresh the page, it says welcome back. There's no way really to log out right now. So let's see if how we can implement the logout. So we say handle logout. So we're going to copy this and let's create this function. We have already created this. Let's log out the user. How do we log out the user? Well, that's simple. We're just going to go to Google and look for, here it is. We can import sign out from auth, and you can say sign out like that, just like that. So let's copy this. And within the handle logout, we could do this. And of course, we have to import sign out like that. Now in the documentation, they are saying that if sign out is successful, then you can do something. This is an asynchronous function, of course. So if you want, you could, technically go and do something after the sign out. So basically doing something like this. That's the result. And here basically you can clear up the cookies. I don't know, maybe update the database, whatever you fancy doing, right? I'm just gonna put a log console, I'll say signed out like that. Okay, beautiful. Let's go back. And one more thing, so whenever we sign out, I would like to send the user back to homepage. That's something we can do, right? So let's do this. Beautiful. So if I go back, go to my local host and click on logout. So it say user not logged in, blah blah blah, user logged out, and then we are back to index page. And that's how the whole flow works. So you click on log into Google, everything is okay, you are back to home page. If I click on logout, you are back to logout page. If I try to go to home page manually, it will redirect me back to home page like this. You see the home page for a moment, and we're going to fix that in a moment. So there's one problem with the approach that we have taken here. Let's do one more thing. I'm going to go back to pages. I'm going to create a new page. I'm going to call it profile.tsx. And I'll say, of course, profile page to profile page like this. And I'm going to create this function. And now you see the problem already. So I'm going to say const. And as always, what we will do, we will export this function, this component, sorry. So export default profile page like this. And we will say I am from profile page. Now we are fairly advanced. I'm going to go back to index page. And here I'm going to create two buttons. Actually, I'm going to create two link. Link needs to be imported from next like this. And here I could say href equals to home. And I'll say inside I'll create a button like this. And I'll say, of course, type is button. And I'll say go to home page. Copy this, paste it. Here I'll say go to profile page and the address should be profile like this. So log in with Google, go to home page, go to profile page. We already know if we go to home page, it's gonna send us back to index page, which is fine. But if we click on profile page, we are able to go to profile page. Now this is something we don't want, right? Because people should be able to see it only when they are logged in. And of course, the logout button doesn't work. And that is because the way we have designed our protected route, this is super convoluted and super difficult to understand, or let's say scale per se. So to overcome this, what we're gonna do, in general, the way you would do, you will create a new function in, if you're working with any other programming language. With React, we're gonna create a hook. So we'll say use auth.tsx, say const. Sorry, this needs to be a small letter because we are creating a hook like this. Now I'm gonna go back to home page. I'm gonna copy everything that we have in terms of the routing logic. So I'm gonna technically cut everything. Save it. Go back to useAuth. Paste it here. First, we need to import things. So I'm gonna cut everything from home page, and I'm gonna paste it here like this. Everything should be good. Okay. Handle logout is not being used, which is okay. All good. So now with this hook, what we want to do is we want to return a couple of things. And instead of returning a JSX or HTML and okay, we're gonna return a dictionary. We'll say user as auth user, right? We're gonna say loading as loading. Sometimes VS Code is super smart, and we're gonna say logout as handle logout like this. So we did not create auth user and loading as of now. So let's do that. So in this hook, we will create two states. We're gonna say const auth user comma set auth user. This needs to be use state, of course, like this. And we'll say const loading comma set loading. This will also be state, and we're gonna initialize this as true, which means that while Google is figuring out if user is logged in, we're gonna say loading is true, so that we can use this flag in order to display a different content on the page. So that's first thing first. We know for a fact that this user will always be of a specific type. So we could say auth dot user, either this or null, and we'll initialize this as null. This has been imported wrong, so we will say import auth from Firebase /auth like this. So far so good. Let's cut it here and paste it here so that all the declaration is at one place. So now our use auth hook is ready, and we can use this hook anywhere and everywhere we want to check if user is authenticated or not. And before that, we also need to set these users. So let's do that. We're gonna copy this and where we were saying console welcome back. Here I can say a set auth user as auth state like this. Maybe I'll just it's fine. And whenever there is no user, so before sending user to the index page, what we would like to do, we would like to say set auth user as, you guessed it, null, and we would say set loading as true, sorry, as false, because it doesn't matter if user is logged in or not. We are able to figure out that it is not logged in, hence it's not loading anymore. And when we are setting the user, here also we would like to set the loading as false, because now we know that if user exists or if user does not exist. Okay, beautiful. Particular hook could be extended to any complexity. So for example, before sending user to the home page, you could also clear out cookies if you want. And similarly, you will do something different, something opposite here. You might want to, set cookies if you want. Again, let me know in the comment section if you want me to explain this in a different video. I'm more than happy to do that. But for timing, this looks good. Okay, beautiful. So instead of saying use auth, I'm gonna call it use Firebase auth. So we are able to differentiate this from this where is it, from this get auth. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to home page, and here now it's super simple. I'm just going to say const auth equals to use Firebase auth like this. And now I know that this variable will contain three things. If I go back here, I know that I am sending user, I'm sending loading, and also sending logout. So let's basically deconstruct this. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to do something like this. I need to clear out a couple of things like this. Okay. Pass logout here like this. And I could also say if loading. So if loading is true, then I want to return loading, please wait, like that. Okay. Let's go back to home page and let's see all of this in action. So I'm gonna go back to index page. Everything looks fine. I'm gonna go back to home page. What I want to show you is that you see that loading, please wait for a moment, and that is because we have inserted this if command here. And that is, we do this because we want to save this real content from unauthorized users, right? So if I click on login with Google, now I'm at the home page and it says I am from home page. Beautiful. And now we can do the same thing for the profile page. So I could just simply go and copy this, go to profile page, and I could say like this. So here it needs to be logged out, and we need to import this. So I'm going to copy this. So I can now go to profile page, and I won't be able to because that's a protected route. First, I need to log in with Google. And once I'm logged in, now I'm at the home page. From here, I should be able to go to profile page. So let me create that button. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go to home page and I'm going to do this. And instead of saying home page, I'm going to say index page. And here I would say nothing. I would need to import link. Okay, looks good. So I'm going to do the same thing on the profile page. So first we need to import link like that. If I go back to profile page, I'm on the profile page. If I go back to, I need to change this to home. Apologies. So go back to home page. I'm at the home page. Go back to profile page. I'm at profile page. I can go to index page. Now this should not be happening. So once user has logged in, they should not be able to see the index page. How do we do that? Super simple. I'm going to copy this. Go back to index page. Paste it here. And of course, we need to import this. So let's do that. Like that. And here we're going to say, if it's loading, then we're going to say, please wait. And if loading is done, and if say, if there is no user, if there is a user, so basically we are logged in, then we're going to use router, of course. So we're going to say const router equals to use router. And we're going to say router dot push Where do we want to send people when they are logged in? We're going to send it to homepage like this. So we are at the homepage. I'm going to click on index page and I still at the homepage. So if I go back to profile page and I click on take me to the index page, I won't be able to, and I'm back to homepage. Profile page, if I click on logout, then I'm on the index page. I won't be able to go to homepage. And that's how, ladies and gentlemen, you create protected routes using NEXTJS and Firebase Authentication. With that, we have created all our learning objectives. There's one objective left, which is logout route, which is super easy to create. So what we can do is we can go to our VS Code. Here we can create a new component. We can call it logout.tsx. And we'll say const logout like this. And this will be coming from use Firebase Auth. And then we're going to just execute this. We're going to say return. What do we want to return? We want to just return that function. Call that function like this. Saying some error because logout needs to be looking like this. So let's do that like this. I'm sure that we did not need this, but I'm just creating it because I mentioned it in our learning. So let's do this. Put default logout page like this. So now if somebody is here and if they go to logout page, they should be logged out and they will be sent to index page like this. Beautiful. Now with this, I hope you learned a lot. And if you have any doubts, do let me know in the comment sections. And here is a video that you should watch in case you're not sure how use effect work, how hooks work, or how Next.js works or React works in general. And of course, do not forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you.